Welcome to the AI and Faith podcast. We are a community of expert technologists, professionals, and faith leaders bringing the ancient wisdom of the world's major religions to the ethics of artificial intelligence. Join us on this new journey and welcome to the conversation.
Those kinds of things leave out a lot of maybe people of color or women who want to get into STEM and want to get into tech. And definitely those biases are still there. So which means that what we need to do is create a diverse workforce, maybe have more women in the workforce who can help program those algorithms in the back end, the AI that's performing these things. And so that down the road, these sorts of biases are eliminated.
My name is Pablo Salmones and I will be your podcast host. Today's episode is from an event in June 2024. In this episode, SkillSpire founder Yasmin Ali shares with us her incredible journey in which she's been helping underrepresented talent like women and immigrants develop tech skills and finding ways to advance their careers. She also shares how her faith has influenced her vision and how AI might affect the future of work. Join us in our conversation. Yasmin Ali is the CEO and founder of SkillSpire, a Washington-based social impact organization. Yasmin worked in various technical roles till 2002 before taking a break to raise her children and serve as a leader at her faith congregation, the Muslim Association of Puget Sound, MAPS. Rather than returning to the tech field, Yasmin chose to launch SkillSpire a few years ago. Yasmin recently joined AI and Faith as a founding expert. Thank you so much, Yasmin, once again for being here. First question, perhaps, that we have for you is that everyone is so inspired by your journey, by everything that you have done. So why don't you tell us a bit about what inspired you to take this step and what inspired you to found SkillSpire, particularly targeting these different groups that you work with at your company?
Yeah, I get asked this question all the time. Being a minority woman myself, this is one thing that a lot of people are actually very curious to know about my background. So I immigrated from India back in 1991. So it's over 33 years ago. So I would say that I was pretty lucky that as soon as I landed here, the very next month, I enrolled in the university. I got my bachelor's in management information systems, went on to do my master's in computer science and worked for almost 10 years. And then came along kids. And so I took a break for almost 10 to 11 years. But during that time, my husband is the founder of the Muslim Association of Puget Sound, which is based in Redmond. I got involved in a lot of volunteering activities. So just like all of us here who give our time and energy, I was very involved and my kids were, different educational programs at MAPS. And that got me started in the education sector, I should say, more along the lines of leading a lot of the educational, both religious and secular education, different programs. So as part of the education committee, we definitely had a lot of programs that we started. One of the programs that I spearheaded continues on even today. And, that got me started. So when you are in a community that attracts over 5,000, 7,000 families from different parts of the world, over 60 different languages spoken. You tend to come across people from very different backgrounds and all different spheres of life, from, say, the blue-collar workers to the high-level C-suite. I sort of got attracted to, or rather started helping people in very basic things like, I need to open a bank account. I don't have a guarantor. I need to rent an apartment. I don't have I'm new here. I don't have any credit history. So just kind of started to, help people that way. And I really started to enjoy and, enjoyed that part. And it was very, very gratifying and very humbling as well. So my kids, fast forward, about 10 years, and then my kids went back to school and I was wanting to go back, become whatever that, the software engineer path that I had initially started. But when I started to look around for jobs, Mind you that, I've had a master's in computer science and had a very good job when I left, good experience as well, but it was very hard. It was extremely intimidating. It was overwhelming. That got me thinking that, hey, if it is hard for me as a woman here who studied and had an education here, how hard would it be for people who migrated, are immigrating to this country from different parts of the world? They may have good education, they may have had, degrees. And that really made me think, how can I help these people? That is the genesis of SkillSpire, I should say. But SkillSpire is actually a coding bootcamp that focuses more along underrepresented communities, women, minorities, people who struggle. Break down those barriers for people who struggle to get into the tech workforce. And that's how I got started with SkillSpire.
I think that this part of getting to know someone, it's even weird to say it this way, but getting to know someone on the most human possible level, which should always be the way in which we get to know people, is not really the norm nowadays in many cases. We create opinions of these people based on what they post, based on a couple of things they said, and people just create an opinion of that. I imagine precisely the discrepancy that may exist between actually getting to know someone and just getting to know someone via social media, or just, getting to know someone from a digital perspective. So do you think that these digital platforms, including, of course, the AI algorithms, have affected in some way the way in which we relate to each other? The students that you help, have they been somehow affected by this revolution in this way?
Yeah, I think we hear those stories all the time, right? I think, recently we heard about one of the big companies right in our backyard, using AI for hiring practices. These algorithms have been written by a certain set of engineers. Okay, this person has to have this amount of this GPA, maybe come from certain college, this sort of pedigree. So when we program such things into AI, and unconsciously we are creating a bias, and which, say for instance, a woman graduating from Whitman College might be left out. Maybe the engineers are not familiar, and the people are, most of them are white men who are creating these algorithms. No offense to all the white men out there, but that's definitely has been some of the trends. And I think these companies have openly acknowledged as well. Those kinds of things leave out a lot of maybe people of color or women who want to get into STEM and want to get into tech. And definitely those biases are still there. So, which means that what we need to do is create a diverse workforce, maybe have more women in the workforce who can help program those algorithms in the back end, the AI that's performing these things. And so that down the road, these sorts of biases are eliminated.
So, you say perhaps we need to create a more diverse workforce. Yeah, which I certainly agree with. But how to do it? I mean, how to move from openly acknowledging that there is a problem to actually trying to solve that problem. Those are two different things. Obviously, the first step is acknowledging it, but then for companies and governments to actually take a step and try to solve the problem that they just acknowledged, well, sometimes they actually do it. Some other times they just do something to, for people to feel that they've done something, but it's not something that actually solves the problem. What do you think, or how do you think this will play out now that they've acknowledged this? Do you think they will solve it? And how do you think they could actually address it on a practical basis?
Yeah, that's that's a good question, Pablo. And it's a tough one as well. Just like how David started this organization, he felt that AI and faith is something that we need to talk about. He had to really spearhead this thing and be a leader in creating such a program to talk about this, to bring awareness to it. It's about mobilizing our thought leadership, it's our voice to bring to the forefront that diversity is an important factor. I mean, we see our communities changing. There is all kinds of people from all kinds of different parts of the world coming in. Everybody brings some unique talent. I think we just have to be vocal about it. We have to keep talking about it. And a lot of the companies, yes, they do have DEI initiatives, but a lot of times, after George Floyd, it was really hot, right? And there was a lot of momentum brought about, a lot of companies putting a lot of effort into bringing more diverse workforce, but then it kind of, went down. And after COVID, now with the soft market, with the job market, with the way it is, we've gone back to our old way of hiring people. I don't think we can do that. we just have to keep this effort going. And it just needs all of us to bring that to the forefront, understand why it is important and why we need to continue the work.
Diversity and immigration have been two topics that are obviously very tied. And me being in Mexico, for example, we're very attentive to the different political decisions that are made between Mexico and the United States in terms of immigration, right? It's obviously going to be one of hot topics of tomorrow's debate in the US, I imagine, among many other things. Even though we can recognize this difficulty, it's always going to be a bit tough to have absolutely everyone represented in these different companies, different indigenous groups in Mexico, for example, that are represented in these huge companies, and perhaps there will never be. What I'm saying is it's going to be tough to try to have everyone there, although I agree we should definitely work towards that. But in the meantime, I mean, while we get there, or in this path that we take to get there, how can we have AI models that are less biased in terms of the data? Because yes, I think the diversity is great, but I also know it's going to take a bit of time for us to get there. So what can we do in the meantime to have all the sort of algorithms or other sort of data that we train these algorithms with, so that we can have something that's a bit less biased?
Well, it goes back to the workforce, the diverse workforce, I would say. I mean, so if you were to walk into one of our campuses, you're going to see people over 80, 90%, people of color. And we're creating we are educating these future engineers. So these engineers are very hungry and very motivated, and they will start wherever you are. I mean, they're even willing to start at a free internship right after the boot camp. And we're looking for companies who are open to hiring these candidates. These are our future AI engineers who are going to be creating these algorithms that you're talking about. How can we, reduce the bias? And then, of course, the data that's being fed as well. I think those, small steps like these, yes, it is going to take time and it's a long process, but we've got to continuously work with organizations that work with, these diverse workforce.
Again, in terms of faith, I'd like to ask you two questions. First is, how has your personal faith helped you? You've told us a bit about your journey at the very beginning, but how has faith helped you, to get through all this and actually have some sort of guideline or something that you would follow, when helping everyone else? And then how can we also embrace faith diversity in a world in which there seems to be more and more polarization?
Definitely, my faith plays a huge role in my everyday life, in my work, how I interact with people, how I work with companies. Because, when you're running a business, there are all kinds of people that you're working with. And, there are a lot of ways that you could actually, that could jeopardize your integrity, the way you transact businesses, everyday decisions, sometimes. But then at that time, it goes back to, what do I believe in, and what is it that I want to hold most? Is it just to make money, or is it to have an ethical company? So that definitely goes back to, my faith and how I deal with people. And one of the biggest things that our faith, and I'm sure it's every other religion, is that we want to help the people that are in a disadvantage. You want to help them up in life. I mean, I look around myself, and when you go down south to Seattle, you see the people that are struggling paycheck to paycheck. If we were to look around, and there are a lot of companies that go reach out to candidates across the continents, but we have a lot of talent right in our backyard. Why not hire those people? Yes, you do need to put in a little bit of effort and time into mentoring those people and maybe bringing them up to speed, but you're going to really bring up the community around us, build our own community right here. It might take a little bit of time, yes, but at the end, all this immigration that we talk about, the standard of living that we're talking about, and how can we eradicate homelessness, all this boils down to, maybe looking around our own communities here and see how we could give back. And most of the time, there are a lot of federal programs that are out there that hand out money. But then I think I'm talking about more is like teach them how to fish so that they can fend for themselves, not just giving handouts, but then working with organizations that are really working with the communities and bringing them up is what I would say.
And as you were saying, it's about, I think, being open to listening to all these people. You also mentioned something which I believe is, you mentioned in the end, it goes back to what I believe in. Perhaps people have different answers to this question in terms of diversity. Some people might like it, some people might not like it that much. Having all these different set of beliefs, and if in the end it comes down to what we believe in, how can we actually try to bring people together and come up with some practical ways in which we can move this debate forward? Because many times I think it stays in that arena, right, in the arena of let's try to do this, let's try to have these discussions. Do you think government should play a role in this or not, or do you think this is something that's better left to civil organizations across different countries?
Well, that is a loaded question for sure. I strongly believe that it's always about partnership. I don't think just the civil organizations or just the nonprofit organizations or just the government can go at it alone. And that's the way I work as well. I work with a lot of the community organizations. I work with government agencies. I work with private companies. So it needs to be a partnership. We're all in it, ultimately for economic reasons, for our community to be better, social impact. My company is a social impact organization. But then I think every company out there, if it thinks that, hey, I am here, yes, to make money, but also to bring up the community around me, when we as companies start to think that way, I think the whole mindset and the way we make our decisions would be very, very different. But that's a tall ask, I would say. I mean, it definitely is. But when we have such huge organizations like Microsoft, Starbucks, Amazon, and then right when you just go a block and then see all this homelessness, you start to wonder, why is this happening in one of the most affluent, neighborhoods of our in Seattle? I think it definitely needs reaching out to different entities, as I said, private, nonprofit, government. There is a room for everyone. It just became one of the board advisory at the women's advisory board at King County, and we're talking about various issues that women face in King County, and how we can help them. So me being an entrepreneur, my organization is a thing, but then I do work with other entities as well. So we all need to work together to understand the challenges that we face and how we could, bridge those challenges.
People, and I know this is kind of like the everyday question, but still people still ask these questions about, hey, am I going to lose my job, or what's going to happen with my work or something? So how do you think that jobs will evolve, or what sort of future do you envision, particularly for the sort of jobs that you help find at SkillSpire, through the different boot camps? So what sort of evolution do you see in that field now with these new tech tools that we have?
I'm no expert, and I think, everyone has their own, rationale about this. But I go back to thinking, the advent of calculators. So we were all crunching numbers. And then came calculators, and then came computers, and then came the internet. With the advent of things, did we lose jobs, or did the jobs increase? Yes, there is some level of, scared feeling that people have. Am I going to lose my job? Absolutely. There is going to be a shift. It's not really that the jobs are going to reduce, but more of a transition from, say, these automated tasks that could be done, maybe it took 30 people to, some administrative tasks, and maybe now it's going to be just 2 to 3 people. So now there is a shift, and people need to continuously learn new skills to keep up with what's going to happen. I mean, that's my take. When somebody, and even the students, when they ask, we are teaching them in our boot camp that, once we teach them the foundations, teach them towards the end that, here are the AI tools that are available to make some of the coding things that you've done easier, in way of testing. Or say, for instance, back then there were COBOL programs that were written, or maybe 5, 7 years ago, they were written in certain language. Now, how do we update them? AI can do it much faster. Yes, the software engineers that are out there have to maybe learn, transition to a different space, and those jobs are going to be available. One of the biggest things that I'm seeing is even small businesses, they are clueless. And how can I use AI? How can I achieve better performance? Make my better ROI. That's a whole new thing that maybe consultants need to. I need to know that. I could go to an AI, consultant engineer or an AI engineer and ask them, what tools can I use to improve my performance in my businesses? So yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely going to open up new jobs, and we all need to be prepared for it.
Thank you, Jasmine. And just one last question: how to start building these communities? From like, there are many people who perhaps have an idea about helping others and helping certain communities or certain groups in their own respective countries or in their own respective fields. But some people, just as small businesses, may be clueless in some cases as to how to use AI. People who perhaps have not had these different experiences about being part of all these like different communities, they also don't know so much about how to start building this new thing or these different communities. So you having built one yourself, what advice would you give people who are trying to start an organization, whether it be in the tech field or in any other field? What advice can you give to them so that they start building these different communities? If they want to help these different groups of people, what advice would you give them for those who have the spark inside but don't know exactly how to start?
Yeah, that is, we all live in our own bubble, right? And it's very hard to come out of our environments and reach out and make new friends, learn new things. And it goes back even to our faith. There's a lot of misinformation out there in that the media portrays. But when you start to talk to everyday people, one does like, what? It's very much the same. In the three main religions we talk about, Islam and Christianity, Judaism, they're very, very similar. I think the differences are very minimal, but then we kind of blow it out of proportion. So it goes back to reaching out, sitting down, having conversations, not being afraid to talk about it. When I came to this country, it was actually pretty surprising to me that hey, I cannot talk about me as a person, the faith that I believe in a workplace environment. Why so? I need to bring my whole self to the company, to wherever I work. So which means that, if I need to maybe take off a day for for my celebrations, just like we have our Christian, for Christmas or for Good Friday or whatever that it may be, I have certain celebrations, and it should spark those sort of conversations. But trust me, I think people are more than happy to share their backgrounds and their beliefs. It just broadens your thinking and your, and now traveling has become such a thing. I mean, when you go to different countries, you learn about these different cultures, the food, the different thing. It's just amazing. I think we just need to make an effort. And a lot of times, even at MAPS, I think we were very secluded and just living in our own bubble. Since 9/11, we've opened our doors, to bring more people inside. And we're doing a lot of events, a lot of interfaith events. And we've seen fantastic, it's one of our marquee events at MAPS that we've had that, we bring, they come together, they enjoy the food, they see the diversity. It's not just white, brown, and black, but then there's so many shades of people. And people after the event, they come to us and thank you for sharing your meal and giving us a little bit more background and understanding about your cultural traditions, your faith traditions. I mean, that's one of the things that we always hear. I'm always available to talk about my faith, my religion, the traditions that I follow. I don't find it offensive at all. I don't think we need to put on those artificial things like, oh, they're going to be, I mean, people ask me all the time, why do you wear a scarf? I don't feel offended by answering that. It's a choice that, we all make. And I feel strong and I feel confident in my faith that I don't think anything, I don't find anything offensive.
Yeah, I think those last words were certainly something that we should all always keep in mind. It's been a true honor to listen to everything that you've shared, and also inspiring to see how you are actually helping solve many of issues that our present society is facing. Thank you for listening to our podcast. Stay tuned to listen to more recordings and interviews with experts from around the world. In the meantime, follow and rate our podcast on your favorite podcast platform and share with your friends. Don't forget to follow us on our social media as well. We're on LinkedIn and X. Thank you for joining us today.